Welcome to Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. I'm Lisa Shield.
And I'm Benjamin Shield.
And it is such a pleasure to be here with you. Today, we wanted to talk about becoming more accessible. This is really an important topic. It came up during one of our Q&A calls during our program, END, which is Emotionally Naked Dating. This is the 12-week introductory course that shows women a roadmap. And what they say is that most of them can't talk to their girlfriends or their mothers or their sisters about what they're learning in our course because it's so untraditional. It really does fly in the face of so much of what other coaching programs are saying. So we feel that today's topic is right in line with that. One of the things I tend to find incredibly frustrating is when I hear lean back and let a guy chase you. And if a man is into you, he's going to pursue you. Well, all of those things may be true, but a lot of that advice is given because so many women today are so masculine. We've become so assertive through work and through having to be single mothers, and because we're taking control and taking charge of so many aspects of life that we didn't have to in our grandmothers and our mothers' days, that we have become almost like men. And so a lot of advice is trying to tell women to sit back and give a man space to be able to take the initiative to pursue so that the men don't feel pushed out and like there's no room for them. I think that a lot of women are taking this advice wrong or wrongly. They're not really understanding what's being said, and they have this attitude that they're just supposed to do nothing. They're the prize, and the guy is just going to chase them. And if the guy, if a man is into them, all they have to do is go on a date and look pretty and get all dressed up. And then the guy is going to do all the rest of the work.
Mm-hmm. And there's a difference between giving a man space and allowing a man to open up, and perhaps in a way that he's never opened up on any other date, which would make that date and make you so extraordinary. But there's a fine line between giving space and being disconnected. One is just like a professional listener, and it's not conversational at all. And ultimately, a date isn't about how can I get a man to pick me. A date is really two people that are ultimately, in the best of all possibilities, where they're each looking for the guardian of their soul. And so it needs to be conversational, because it's not just about, gosh, I hope he likes me. I hope he likes me. I'm going to just give him all this room to speak. And I'm going to lean back, and I'm not going to even give any kind of feedback. Well, a man may keep talking because he's trying to make connection. And there are men that are just, narcissistic, and they go on dates, usually it's just like one, possibly two dates, but usually just single dates to impress a woman and then go on to the next. And it's just feeding their egos. But most men, most good men, particularly if they've been filtered out as much as possible through the apps and websites, are looking for partnership, whatever form that looks like. Future wife, lifelong partner, playmate, lover, best friend, all of those things perhaps wrapped into one. So a man needs to know also what a woman is like. It may be fun for him to, be talking about his job for 45 minutes, be talking about his ex-wife for 15 minutes, be talking about, and everything is about him. And he may feel good about doing it because he feels he's impressing the woman or making a point or making himself look good.
And she's sitting there listening.
Yeah. And at the end of the date, when, they both get back to their homes, it's empty.
Well, and the thing is, the woman is sitting there, again, talking about accessibility. She's not offering herself. A lot of women come back, we hear this all the time. oh, I sat there and all he did was talk about himself and he didn't ask me anything about myself. Well, first of all, men don't typically ask questions. It's not in their nature to do that.
Right. I've been criticized many times after dates, after a date, that I didn't ask as many questions, like she felt I wasn't interested. The truth is, a lot of men kind of wait for puzzle pieces to come together. They listen and they say, okay, she has a sister. She's on good terms with her mom, but not her dad. She likes her job. All of these things come into form just by listening. So a woman may misunderstand if a man doesn't ask a lot of questions and really wants to listen. And it's up to the woman if she wants to really make the conversation more emotionally naked to come forward and say, what really lights me up, or, one of my passions. It's something that brings it to that next level beyond the surface, get to the real stuff.
Right. And so when it comes to accessibility, and let's go back to this idea of men asking questions. Today, common dating advice says if he's interested, he's going to ask me questions because he really wants to get to know me. It doesn't automatically mean that a man doesn't want to get to know you if he's not asking questions. And a lot of women don't understand this, and they're taught not to assert themselves and to sit back and let a man do all the work. So when it comes to conversation, which is the first part that we're talking about now, and being accessible in conversation, it is so important that a woman offer and say, may I pause you for a moment? And there's something I would love to share. I had a similar experience. Or, oh, you went to China last year. Wow. I've always wanted to go to China. My sister went to China last year and, she said it was amazing. But not sit and wait for the man to ask you, well, would you like to go to China? And have you ever thought about going? And what do you think about that? And we often say to our clients, when you're talking to a girlfriend and you're having a conversation with your girlfriend, you're not sitting there waiting for your girlfriend to ask you questions. You're not just sitting there silently waiting for her to say, well, what do you think about that? And how, what do you think I should do? And whatever, you just offer your advice. You jump in, you're like, hey, wait a minute. I don't know about that, or that was really great what you said, but you don't sit there and wait for her to say, what do you think about what I said? You jump in with an opinion or a thought, and this is what's called being relational. You're not sitting there waiting for somebody to prompt you and give you cues so that you know the next thing to say or where the conversation should go. A real conversation is like what we're having right now.
Right. And what lights a man up the most is female responsiveness. So if a woman is just leaning back and kind of dispassionately listening, not, maybe even if she's trying to find an entry, can't. So she's just almost given up and she's just become a professional listener. But what a man loves most, what lights a man up is feminine responsiveness. So, it could be like, wow, you did that? I have so much respect for you. Tell me more. And I can't wait to tell you something that I did along those lines. And it becomes fun. It becomes alive. And when two people go back to their respective homes, they're enriched. Even if there's not a second date, they feel heard, they feel seen, they feel appreciated. And one of the things we talk about in the program is on a date, being in as if it were a bell jar, where if you could imagine that you and a date are sitting at a table and there's a bell jar over the two of you, so nothing else exists. nothing else exists. The rest of the restaurant, the music, people walking in through the door, no matter how stylized they are or unusual, nothing exists except the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a woman and a man both very accessible.
Yeah. And if a man is going, so here's the thing. No, so few people really stop and study and understand when they're, what does a man want from a woman and what does a woman want and need from a man? We hear all of these ideas. A man wants respect and a woman wants to feel cherished and adored. But okay, so what does that look like on a date? How do I convey those things? How am I going to feel those things from a man? So what happens is, more often than not, two people go on a date and they're throwing mud at the wall.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking, they're sharing, their words are flying back and forth, or maybe one person, like, I'll plead guilty here. I used to be the one who talked incessantly about herself. I would go on and on and on and on. And I'm sure many men walked away from dates and thought, oh my God, she was so full of herself. And I know that I did that because, number one, I was trying to be fascinating and entertaining and show a man who I was, and fill the airwaves, keep the conversation going. There was no bad intent on my part. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm a full-blown narcissist and I just want to talk about myself all night. It had nothing to do with any of that. I was desperately trying to make a connection. I really was. And I may have been just as guilty as those men who weren't asking questions about the women that we hear the women complain about all the time. I think I was just as guilty as they were, but it had nothing to do with a desire to talk about myself all night. It had to do with the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. I was flying blind and I wanted to connect with that guy. I wanted to impress him. I mean, I had only good intentions, I just wasn't educated and experienced in how to really mirror a man's masculinity back to him and make him feel special in my company. I think I was afraid when I was getting to know men to touch their arm or to have any physical contact or to make it too intimate, because I didn't want the guy to think that I was easy, or there were so many reasons why that happened. But if a man had just paused me, and I know you even did this in the beginning of our relationship, there were times where I'd go on and you would put your hand on my arm and you would go, and I would go, oh.
Right. Or when we're driving in the car.
Yeah. And it was okay because you let me know that I was either talking 3 octaves too high, my energy was way up here and you couldn't even hear me because I was so, like this. And so you very gently helped bring me back down and ground me. And I didn't mind that at all. You did it with such love and such kindness, but I didn't realize how inaccessible I was being because there was no connection.
Yeah. And you can imagine that if a man is going on and a woman is leaning back and just passively listening,
and waiting for him to ask her questions.
Right, both parties are inaccessible.
Yeah.
And the man is completely inaccessible because he's covering up any vulnerability with just discourse. And so nothing happens. And if one party, let's say the woman, just leans forward and says, may I interrupt you for a moment, or may pause you for a moment? What I'd really love to know is if you're on a spiritual path, or
that didn't go over so well when I asked it.
in a way it did.
Yes, it did.
But just coming forward with, like, let's take this to another level, because nothing is happening at this level.
Yeah. Or what are you looking for? Or let's, just anything. There's something saying, may I pause you for a moment? That's actually what is called in NLP a pattern interrupt, right? It's a pattern interrupt. And one of the things that we don't realize is when we're running a tape, or when something is, just going on and on, a person may be in a pattern, or in a cycle, something a behavior that they don't even know that they're doing. And so maybe somebody's getting super negative and they don't even realize that suddenly they're veering off into negativity. So a pattern interrupt. May I pause you for a moment? Wasn't it a beautiful day today? I couldn't believe, the weather's been so up and down, but boy, this last week has been absolutely gorgeous. Have you taken advantage of, this beautiful weather? Have you gotten outside? I know I've taken my dog on some walks. Whatever you do to break that pattern, I think what often happens is that we start to run our own inner monologue, which makes us completely inaccessible, because we're sitting on a date and we're sitting there thinking, oh my God, how much longer is he going to go on about this?
Right.
I'm so not interested in whatever, whatever that movie he saw, or whatever's happened with his ex-wife last week. I really don't want to be sitting here listening to this. And we're starting to spiral in our own heads. And we get upset. Our temper gets short. We're not enjoying ourselves. We check out and start thinking about, some project at work. We're not even present on the date, instead of just leaning over and saying, gosh, it sounds like, things aren't good with your ex-wife. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'd love to hear about whatever, and switch the subject somehow.
Yeah.
But we run that monologue. And then there's the instance where a woman will say, I love hearing about you. I'd also love to share something about myself. Or would you ask me questions? This is the mistake women always make. I would love for you to ask me some questions about me. And the guy is going, how would you feel if a woman said, would you ask me some questions about me? What would you like to know?
I would be at a loss. But if a woman were to rephrase that and say, I'm so enjoying learning about you, and I want you, I would love to share some of myself so you know me better, and is there anything that is in your mind that you'd like to know?
And maybe even give, sometimes when you ask such an open-ended question, it's still nebulous for someone. Would you like to know, a bit about, I have a wonderful dog. I'd love to share with you about my dog. Or, it was Mother's Day last weekend. I know I had a fabulous time with my mother and my sister. We went to my mother's country club, and it's always, so lovely to see how when she walks in the door, everybody adores her. She's been going there for years, since my father passed away. She still goes, and it's amazing. I have so much respect for my mother, all the friendships that she has. Anything, but to give a few examples. What did you, that's how I spent my Mother's Day. How did you spend yours?
Right.
But creating more reciprocity, instead of sitting there blaming the guy and being upset because he's talking about himself and he's not asking you anything about yourself.
Yeah. And there may be those instances where a guy is leaning back and appears inaccessible, and isn't sharing anything about himself. That could be out of shyness. That could be just, I've known guys that feel that they're such a prize that the women have to win him over. Like, what do you got? And and those are the difficult ones. And those people still can be reached, because both are defensiveness, both the shyness and the thinking that I'm so great, a woman has to to have some of this, woman's going to have to work for it. But underneath that is a vulnerability, is a wanting to share, is a wanting for connection. They just don't know how to get it.
Yeah. Well, dating is so awkward to start with, and there's so much going on, especially if you like the person, or if you're attracted, or if you've had a number of bad dates and you find, you're going in carrying all of that disappointment. I mean, there's a million different things that are going on.
When I was dating, in my dating career, I felt that the first date, particularly if you hadn't met the person before, is to prove that you weren't an axe murderer, that you weren't a serial killer. And so some guys will just talk about everything about their career, their car, their dog, all of this, just to prove that, I'm a good guy. I'm, a safe guy, establishing trust and safety. And so sometimes a guy will go on and on and on. So if that happens, all a man needs to hear even once is like, wow, you're really something. You are a good guy. I have so much respect for you. They don't have, chances are they won't go into the diatribe, the monologue any further, because they've already proven to themselves that the woman feels that they're safe.
Yeah. And I want to even just take accessibility a little bit outside of of a date itself. And I want to talk about accessibility just in general. Again, going back to this idea that women are supposed to lean back and let a guy chase them and do all the work. When I think about what it must be like for a man to date and to actually pursue a woman, it breaks my heart. I'm not siding with men. I'm actually putting myself in a man's shoes and thinking about what it must be like for a man to pursue a woman and to date, how much responsibility women put on the guy to prove himself at every single step of the way. I mean, we expect you to reach out to us to make the initial contact. We expect you to text us out of the blue. Morning texts and good night texts and initiate and all. And then we expect you to ask us on, call us, get on a Zoom date today, set the actual date, plan the dates. And then it's up to you to know when to initiate intimacy, physical contact. And then we expect you to initiate a commitment conversation, move it even forward into commitment and all. And all of that responsibility is like the woman leaning back and expecting a man, if he's going to pursue me, then, this is what I'm looking for. And so they're gauging a man by all of these hoops that a guy has to jump through. I mean, if I were a guy, I don't even know where I would start.
And there's the fear. Some men may become less accessible the more dates and the more intimate the dates are, because the big words forever, get, like in his thought bubble. And if I pursue this any further, am I making a commitment to forever? Is there turning back? And all that. So sometimes men become less accessible without necessarily being avoidant or bad guys, but suddenly they realize, whoa, I really have been enjoying this woman's company a lot, but am I ready to say forever with this person? I don't know. And so they begin to become less accessible themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very delicate balance. Even the timing of dates, if a man is to ask a woman out, not to appear over anxious, not to begin to project with this woman, what the future could be, what she's like and what the future could be like with her.
Yeah.
All of those things.
And see, for me, what I realized was, because in the past I had been so reactive and so pursuant in some ways, I'd get so anxious or so avoidant or whatever. I mean, I really very strongly had both of those tendencies. And I started to realize, and I think this is something so important for every single woman to know. I started to take on the responsibility for myself that every single interaction was me showing a man the kind of woman that I am. Every moment, if a date got changed or a man forgot to call when he said he'd call, or something went wrong
on our first date, and
Yeah.
I who am always punctual,
impeccable.
and that doesn't mean like almost always punctual, just always early. And so I got lost. This was before Siri and MapQuest and those things, and I just got lost. I kept heading towards downtown Los Angeles, and it was about 20 minutes after the date, and I couldn't get cell reception. Back then, it wasn't as good as it is now.
And I didn't even have my phone with me, I don't think.
Right. So I finally got through to the restaurant, and I said, has there been a woman just sitting there for the last 20 minutes or so by herself? And they said, yes. I said, may I speak with her? And you came to the phone, and I profusely apologized. I said, I know where it is now. I'm heading straight over there. And what did you say?
I said, well, first I said, are you okay?
Yeah.
I said, are you okay? And then I said, don't worry, I'm just sitting here enjoying myself. Yeah. And I'll be here when you get here. Take your time.
And that was the beginning of our 20-year. that was like, oh my Lord, if this is what it's going to be like for the next 50 years, I'm, projection aside, I'm in, because that's what a man would love to hear. I can't believe you kept me waiting. We haven't met yet. It's irresponsible.
Or even just, where are you? And how long will it take you to get here?
Yeah.
Nothing, just, yeah. And I knew, honey, in that moment, I knew that how I handled moments like that said everything. Yeah. Everything about how I handle upsets or disappointments or, mishaps. I mean, I can't say that I'm 100% all the time. You've also seen my dark side, not directed at you, ever, 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 never directed at you. But you have seen me get upset before, but never, ever directed toward you. And I knew that women can, I know I will speak for myself. I just knew I could be punishing and mean and, and that's completely inaccessible. There's nothing, when that happens, a woman is completely inaccessible when she's mothering and teaching and lecturing and punishing and talking down to a man. There's no conversation. And even if a man did do something wrong or something did happen or he dropped the ball or whatever, there's no room for two people to be human with each other. So I felt that even if it had happened again, even if it had been a continual thing and I had decided, okay, this man may not respect my time and this doesn't feel good and I don't want to continue in a relationship or continue exploring something with him, I still wouldn't have, I may have come to you and just said, punctuality is important to me, and I feel, what happens is when somebody isn't punctual, I feel like that person isn't respecting my time, and so I don't feel good about continuing. But I wouldn't have, I would have spoken from my perspective. I wouldn't have punished you.
Right. And that conversation would probably have been on the third date.
Yeah.
If it was a repeated pattern and not something aberrant.
No, and it would have been done with kindness and with thoughtfulness, for your feelings and not wanting to make you wrong or just to say, it just doesn't work for me. I know everybody has a different idea of time and timing and all. I mean, the truth is, I'm the one who's always late.
Not so much.
Never for you.
Yeah.
I'm late sometimes for other people and other things. I run, I cut everything to the last second, but never for you, because I love you and I know how important that is for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I make it a priority. But I also feel that part of being accessible is being kind and thoughtful in the way that we say things to each other, so that if something does happen, very often when we're on calls together and I'm in the zone, I may say something or I might inadvertently do something that may touch a nerve with you or something, but we can get right off a call and you can say, hey, this happened.
Oh, it's over.
And it's over. Yeah. We talk about it and there's that space. I'm accessible, and so are you. We are very emotionally accessible to one another, but being harsh or mean or lecturing, or I saw this in my mother. I saw how mean and punishing she was with my father. I mean, she had a lot to be mean and punishing about. Neither one of them was a saint. But I used to listen to the way that she would talk to him, and there was no room for him. There was just no, like, if he did do something, there was no room to even discuss it or heal it. She came at him like a force of nature, and there was no room. Even if he did try to apologize, she couldn't hear it. It was so, yeah. I mean, I think I learned from them what not to do.
Right. Our greatest teachers.
Yeah. But, when I think about accessibility, I think about creating a safe and loving space for two people to be human with one another.
Right. That is well put. That is beautifully put. Could you say that one more time?
It's just creating a safe and loving space for two people to be human with each other.
Perfect.
To bring their full selves, their full flawed, imperfect, but well-intentioned, caring, loving selves into that relationship. And even on a first date, to come in. We have a client who I love so much. In fact, she is going to be my new enrollment coach. And another woman that I'm thinking of right now who's in our mastermind. And both of these women are women who have been through horrible marriages. Well, not my EC, not the woman who, she actually had a loving relationship with her husband, but she admittedly, said she could be very, hard on men and all. And our other client who's in the mastermind went through a terrible marriage in a very, very, very difficult situation. And both of these women have decided to go on every date and enjoy themselves. Every date with love and caring and compassion and kindness in their hearts, no matter what happens. And they're loving the dating process. They're enjoying the men, whether or not it goes anywhere. In fact, the woman that's in our mastermind, she met a guy who was very clearly avoidant, very, very clearly, and things were going well. And then I think he threw the, oh, I'm just looking kind of for a friends with benefits situation. The way she handled that was brilliant, where she said, he's such a lovely man, and I feel, disappointed that this is all that he was looking for with me. And he's a lovely man. I wish him the best. It was such a wonderful pleasure getting to know him. He has so many qualities I'm looking for in a man. And she, while she was sad because she really, really liked him, she was so loving about, she had such love in her heart in the way that she accepted the outcome. It was incredible. Incredible to see someone not be angry or wounded or mean or talk down and say, well, how dare he, and whatever. She was like, that's what he wants, that's not what I want. And she let it go, and she's out dating some more. But that's accessibility. That's a woman who is who's choosing to create that safe and loving space for a man to come into her world and be his full self. And she can say yes or no, this is what I want, or this is not what I want. But she doesn't have to get angry or mean or make a guy wrong. And I can only imagine what kind of partner she's going to attract. And what that relationship with her is going to be like for that man, because she is so accessible.
And men get these cues early on, as early as the first few minutes of the first date, or even phone calls and texts. They get the cues. They're looking for those cues. They are on the alert for cues, both negative and positive.
Yeah, and I think most women do not realize how the most subtle things, a guy can pick up on those things and extrapolate and just say, no chance in hell. Sayonara, see you later, lady. One harsh word or a look or whatever.
Or I was really expecting your text this morning. And the guy thinks, oh my gosh, I'm obligated to, rather than doing things spontaneously and from the heart, I'm obligated to punch a time clock.
Right. Like all the mornings he texted, and that one morning he didn't text, and she says, I was expecting your text this morning. And here he's been texting and doing everything and thinking he was doing such a wonderful job of, showing her what a great guy he is. And that one slip up, and she's angry and starting to spiral into insecurity. And the guy feels punished, or like he can't even, miss a day, and that he's going to be held to task or taken to task for all the things he doesn't do, instead of praised for all the things he does do. Yeah. And that's it right there. That can be the end of things. Yep. All right, honey, on that note, this has been a lovely conversation. I so appreciate you doing this.
Very accessible conversation.
Yes, it has. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. We so appreciate all of you. Please tell your daughters and your sisters and your We have one comment here, which I want to look at. Every book, article, video is always about what the man wants. Do what he likes, make him happy, compliment him, do what he wants, etc., etc. The woman is supposed to do all the work while the man sits back and enjoys. When will it ever be that what the woman wants and needs? So Tracy, I'm going to tell you something. That attitude right there is going to be your undoing. That attitude right there, because that is, I'm going to tell you, first of all, you're a woman. And so if you're reading dating advice for women, you're going to read advice for women that is going to try to empower you so that you're not just sitting there on dates and giving all of your power away to men. When you take that attitude, what you're doing is you're saying, oh, well, what about the men? I'll tell you the difference. I have a 20-year relationship with a man who will do anything in the world for me, anything, because I'll do anything in the world for him. Nobody is saying, do what the man wants and only do what the man wants, and the man gets to sit back and do nothing. No, that's not okay either. Two people have to meet in the middle, but Benjamin brings his 100% and I bring my 100%. I don't sit there and look at, well, what's he doing? And is he doing enough? And and calculating if I should be doing less and he should be doing more. We are two people who bring it 100% from both sides. But no, I'm not telling you, and Benjamin is not telling you, this man does, I mean, to me, he does way more for me than I could ever do for him. And what would you say, babe?
Well, I would feel the same way. I feel that you give 110%. But what the secret is, which shouldn't be a secret, is that men want to please women. And sometimes they just don't know, what to do. Men love when women are responsive to something that they do for them, but they don't know what to do unless a woman tells them what they want. Like, what really excites me is when a man opens the door for me and then to praise him. And it's so nice to be able to download at the end of the day, just for a couple minutes, a few minutes. And it just is such a pleasure for a man to be with me, to sit with me during that time. And so, a man wants to know, and they want to please, and they love the responsiveness that they get when a woman is happy with what they're doing.
And Tracy, you may be picking the wrong guys. To me, that is a sign of picking the wrong men if they aren't responsive, or you need to look at what you're doing and how you're doing it. Like Benjamin just said, there's a way to suggest and say, you know what I love? I love a man who takes the lead. I love a man. If a man says pick the restaurant, you say, you know what? There's nothing I love more when a man picks the restaurant and plans a date for me. And some things I love Chinese food. I love Mexican food. I love having a picnic. Any of those things would be great. Why don't you choose? And then put the power back in his hands. Some of these guys just may not know what you want. And so they may be trying to make you happy by letting you pick because they're afraid of failing or doing it wrong. So if you give them some suggestions, then you sit back after you've made those suggestions and see what they do and see if they plan. But you may be choosing the wrong men, and or it may have something to do with the way that you're saying things. I know when I got divorced from my first husband, he did very little for me. I mean, he did do things, but it wasn't like what I would sit back. I'd see these women in Los Angeles and these guys tripping over themselves to wine them and dine them and do all these, buy them beautiful things and take them on trips. And nobody ever did that for me. And when I sat back and really looked at myself and I really checked in with me, I realized I had this aha moment where it was like, Lisa, if you want a man to take the lead, you have to let him. And then not only do you have to let him and empower him to do that, but then you have to praise him and tell him what a wonderful job he did when he does it. So he'll want to keep doing more of that. So, my husband, Benjamin and I had a party on Thursday night, and I've been busy with work. I've had a lot on my mind, and he said, well, do you want to look at the menu? Do you want to look at the flowers? Do you want to look at the setup? And I said, babe, I would love it if you would plan those things, if you would do it all. And he said, well, I know how particular you can be about things, about the colors of the flowers or this or that. And I said, baby, I'm going to be happy no matter what you do. I just want to show up. I want to be a guest. And this beautiful man here took care of everything. And, it was beautiful. It was everything about it. I mean, it was just magical. And in the past, I might have been very controlling and tried to do it all. But I have to say, it was actually more enjoyable to let go and just put it all in Benjamin's hands and trust him. And it was so much fun when everybody was at the party oohing and eyeing over the food and how beautiful everything was. I felt so great because I would look at him and I would say, yeah. And they were thanking me. And I'm like, no, Benjamin did everything. Thank him. I just showed up. And that was so much fun for me. But if I had started criticizing what he did, or I had started picking and saying, well, why did you do this way? And why did you have that food and whatever, he would be hesitant to want to do it again. So we empower each other and we work together as a team. And it's absolutely not me catering to Benjamin or Benjamin catering to me. We cater to each other. And it's 100%, 100%, or 110%, 110%. So I don't know, a lot of books and a lot of stuff. If you're looking for ways to have more power and agency and control over your dating, if you came to me, I would tell you all the things that you can do to be able to go on a date and be successful. But that doesn't mean a guy isn't supposed to also meet you in the middle and show up and do his part as well. So, all right, that's that. Thank you for joining us. This has been Getting Inside the Right Male Mind. I'm Lisa Shield.
I'm Benjamin Shield.
And you can rate and like this podcast. You can tell everyone you know. We are saying things in a different way than many other love coaches and therapists are saying it. We offer a 12-week course for finding the guardian of your soul. You can access that by going to lisashield.com. Also, you can like my YouTube channel. That's important as well. And finally, if you have any suggestions for topics you'd like for us to talk about, please send those to podcast@lisashield.com. Finally, if you want to participate in our 12-week program that is life-changing and you are ready to get this solved now, you're done wishing and hoping and praying for the right guy, and you just want to find the guardian of your soul, please watch my presentation, stay to the end, where you can sign up for a breakthrough call with a member of my team or me, and we will show you how we can help you get this solved. Thank you again, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.